Your single act creates a chain reaction of consequences. And as the state argued, spreading outwardly like ripples in a pond.
Another horrific case out of Idaho comes to a conclusion.
Mr. Best, she loved you. She expressed that even in the moments before you ended her life. She expressed that.
A husband is charged with the unthinkable, shooting and killing his pregnant wife and murdering his 10-month-old son by cutting his throat.
Just in short, I want to offer my apologies to the Randall family.
We're going to take you inside that courtroom for his sentencing. Plus, we're breaking down all the evidence prosecutors had against him had this case gone to trial. Thanks for joining us on Law and Crime. I'm Elizabeth Millner. Jeremy Best could have faced the death penalty for what he did to his pregnant wife and their 10-month-old son, Zeke. Now, initially, he pled not guilty, but like another high-profile Idaho defendant, he decided to take a plea to likely avoid getting a death sentence. And as prosecutors peeled back the layers of this case, it's a lot more horrific than I imagined. When you look on Kali Randall's Facebook page, you see nothing but beautiful photos, either on the mountains, with her dogs, some with her son, and even some with her husband, Jeremy Best. In one post from November 9th of 2022, it reads, quote, "Our first date was 3 days long, dropped off on a dirt road in the middle of Grand Teton National Park. Moments later, Jay bounded down the washboard in Ginger, his custom-built rust-colored VW Vanagon. It was love at first sight, me and the van. You already know how I felt about the boy. We late-night hot springed, cooked steaks in bear country at midnight, got a flat tire with no jack, instantly connected. I was in awe as he navigated hundreds of miles of back roads, the map solely in his mind. It was the summer of 2009. I was 24, living in Wisconsin, absolutely smitten with a guy in Idaho." It's a sweet post from a woman who seems so in love with her husband. But a little more than a year after making that post, she was brutally murdered by that very same man. For Jeremy Best and Kali Randall, they were planning to expand their little family. They had their 10-month-old son, Zeke, and Kali was expecting another baby, a daughter who they were planning to name Freya. Then on November 30th of 2023, a 911 call came in. A neighbor said that he could hear Jeremy and his wife Kali fighting across the street.
I heard Kali say something to the effect of, "Jeremy, stop," or "Jeremy, don't, you have a baby."
And when Kali said, "Jeremy, stop," or "Jeremy, don't, you have a baby," what was her tone of voice, if you remember?
She was yelling, and she sounded distressed and panicked.
What, if anything else, did you hear that night?
I then heard gunshots, what sounded to me like a series of 3 shots followed by 1 or 2 after that. Something to the effect of pop, 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 pop.
And after you heard those gunshots, did you hear any more voices?
I did. I heard Jeremy's voice.
Did Jeremy's voice say anything specific?
I heard him say, "Try calling the cops now."
I want to thank Odoo for sponsoring this news story. Odoo is an incredible all-in-one business management software that provides you with a range of applications. One of my favorite Odoo applications is their sales tool. The Kanban pipeline, game changer. Whether you're working with leads or full-blown opportunities, you can visually track every stage of your sales process. Just drag and drop to move deals forward. It's fast and honestly kind of satisfying. When it's time to send a quote, it's literally a couple of clicks, and the reporting super clear. You get a live view of your pipeline, conversations, and what's working, so you can focus on closing, not guessing. So right now, you can get a free 15-day trial of Odoo's all-in-one business solution and see how it can make your life easier. Check it out at www.odoo.com/LCNewsCRM. Then he looked out of the window and saw a black Tahoe just taking off. This neighbor says it wasn't the first time he heard Kali and Jeremy getting into a loud argument like this.
Jeremy threatening to smash maybe a cell phone or maybe computers. I remember Kali saying at one point, Jeremy, don't smash that, that's not been paid for yet.
According to the state, the financial strain between Jeremy and Kali plagued their marriage.
You will see that the defendant was under significant stress from a variety of sources. He was under financial stress. You'll see that he and Kali were making ends meet, but just barely. That there was no cushion for unexpected expenses, including children. As you know, the defendant had chronic pain stemming from use and abuse of his body in younger years, and that this was exacerbated by his work as an auto mechanic. Detective Stevens will also give you a bit of a window into the relationship between Jeremy Best and Kali Best. You will see that it was not as happy as it appeared to many outsiders, that the relationship in actuality was rocky and quite volatile. You'll see that Jeremy was frequently demanding, demeaning, and sometimes downright verbally abusive of Kali. You'll see that they had significant fights, sometimes resulting in Kali needing to sleep away from the family home. And you'll see that divorce came up a lot leading up to the murders. You'll see that the defendant demanded a divorce multiple times leading up to the murders. Lastly, and certainly not least, you'll see that Zeke's birth and Kali's pregnancy with Freya added gasoline to the fire of that already stressed relationship.
And there was one way Jeremy coped with stress, by turning to drugs like mushrooms, weed, and cough syrup. I mean, look, drug abuse is really no excuse, especially when you hear everything Jeremy did to his wife and son.
You know, he shot Kali 4 times in the back, killing her and unborn Freya. You also know that he slashed Zeke's throat with a steak knife, and that before his killing spree was over, he slashed the throat of the family dog's sister in the same way. We're not going to rehash the details that you already know, but the blood evidence and the autopsies reveal additional aggravating factors that we're going to explain to you.
But did he just snap one day because of drugs? Well, according to testimony from a detective with the Idaho State Police, Jeremy and Kali were only married a little more than a year before the murders. And throughout their marriage, divorce was brought up a number of times. And it seemed from the testimony that Jeremy didn't even want to be a dad.
Do you have any opinion, or was there evidence that you saw in your review whether that pregnancy was planned?
I do not believe it was planned. A little later in on my timeline there, I show a video where Jeremy states we're not supposed to have children. And I'm also going to show a timeline and there's also evidence, not on the timeline, but there's evidence that on some of the reports that there was the second baby, Freya, was also was a surprise.
Now, you fast forwarded a minute ago, so let me ask you about the entry in December of 22. What is that, and can you explain to us why it's labeled divorce number 1?
Throughout the timeline, I'm going to identify there's 5 different moments in time in a period of approximately, they've been married for probably 14 years by the time, or 14 months by the time that the homicide occurred. And in a period of about 11 or 12 months, there was 5 different times the divorce came up. And the first one I identified actually occurred December, so just a few months after they were married on December 12th of 2022. Okay, so this particular text stream, the one in blue will be Kali, and Jeremy Best has stated it shows where it's at. But as you can see on December 20th, 2022, he has the first word, or the first item of business, I want to divorce. And Kali says, I'm scared. And that would be it for that.
The text communication continues on between the two, but those are the...
Correct.
And that was the basis of some of the discussions or concerns about divorce.
Yes.
So these texts were from December of 2022. By January of 2023, baby Zeke was born. He was born a little early and had to be admitted to the NICU. The hospital bill alone caused more strain on the family.
And you had mentioned earlier that you found evidence of financial concerns or marital trouble. Was there anything surrounding those issues at the time Zeke was born?
Yeah, during some tests or during some interviews and talking to people, the bill was over $100,000 for the NICU, and it created a financial strain for the family.
Eventually those bills were paid though, right?
That is correct.
But at the time there was concern and when you say for the family, who are we talking about?
For Jeremy Best and for Kali Best.
Then a couple months later, Jeremy confided in his mom, claiming Kali had a spending problem.
She starts out by, can you talk privately? You're probably right, and she's probably wrong. It sounds like she has a spending problem. If you make a rash decision now, when you're so angry about things, you will be making a big mistake. You have both been cooped up for months with little or no outside contact. That is not good. And you are not sleeping. This is the time for you to calm yourself down and think rationally, not with a hot head. You also should talk to a lawyer to see what your options are. Zeke will be coming from a broken home. He will not have a loving mom and dad. Think about the consequences of that. Don't do something you will regret.
Don't do something you'll regret. Those words are eerie considering what happened just 8 months later. The state presented a short video from November 16th of 2023, just 2 weeks before the murders, where Jeremy could be heard saying something he's told Kali already once before.
We're not supposed to have children.
Okay, so this is relevant to me. I mean, I don't know why the video was taken. I don't know how the video was taken. I know that that's Jeremy's voice, and I know that that's Zeke in that thing. So it's relevant to me because this is the month of November, and we're within weeks of the homicide of Kali Best and Zeke Best. And also, it's relevant to me because Kali is pregnant as well. So he's saying we're not supposed to have children.
And now they have 2.
And now they have one and one on the way.
Then there was another video, a couple of days later, showing Jeremy kicking a pregnant Kali out of their home.
And so this is Jeremy's phone, and this is Jeremy's voice in the background, and I'll let you watch it.
Even my home
Can you hear it,
on the
Judge?
20th of November,
Yes.
previous to our divorce. Yeah, that's after 8,200 lies. I think lying and cheating. She stole money from me in the business. She's lying about it. She's not defending me from police. She's generally just been a terrible housewife and a lot of reporting where she's leaving, proving that she doesn't get physically exhausted because she's so dishonest. She's like banging her head against the wall and when she got fucking stuff. Of course she would. Nobody believes a word you say here. I'm scrapping stuff in the comments. What do you say? It's the last time we're going to talk to each other. You got something good? You got something good?
This video had a big impact on me. This actually shows the nature and the things that Jeremy Best was how he talked to her, what he was saying to her. The phrase $8,200 in there comes from the midwife. That was what the bill was for the midwife that wasn't paying the bill. I mean, and then this is 10 days prior, and he's kicking Kali Best out of the home. And you can see it, you can see her, the way that she looks. You can tell at the very end, well, if I'm never going to talk to you again, I'm not going to leave. It doesn't sound like Kali wanted to go on this particular one. But this is divorce number 5 within the last 14 months.
And 10 days later, everything changed. On the same day of Kali's murder, Jeremy was seen walking naked into a general store.
He took all his clothes off, walking into the store, completely naked. And of course the staff called the police. The police came. And they talked to Jeremy. They were just trying to figure out what's going on. So they felt it's necessary. They had an ambulance come and check him out as well. And then it was determined that, and I believe that, I have to ask the testimony of the officer, but I believe that Jeremy voluntarily went on an ambulance, and so we traveled to Ermac at that particular time.
So just to be clear, did the police make any charges at that time? Did anybody at Swan Valley try to prosecute him?
There were no charges against Jeremy, and I don't believe the convenience store wanted to prosecute him.
And then he was taken there.
And then he was taken to Idaho Falls to what we call Ermac, but it's Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center, which is the hospital there.
At first, it seemed no one thought much of it. Maybe just a guy having a mental break. Until that 911 call came in. Then deputies responded to Kali and Jeremy's home.
When I found Kali, I immediately, I called for help for medical services. And once I realized that she was deceased, I immediately began to search for Jeremy and for Zeke. I searched the shop and the residence for Zeke and Jeremy.
In relation to the structures on the property, where did you find Kali?
She was in that kind of awning connected to the shop.
Did you observe any blood?
Yes, so lots of blood.
Did you observe any wounds?
Yes, several gunshot wounds.
Did you observe anything about what she's wearing?
She was wearing like some long johns on her leggings, but no shirt.
Kali was shot and killed on November 30th. However, Jeremy, baby Zeke, and the family dog weren't found until a couple of days later.
Reviewing the photographs, there was a considerable amount of blood on the outside of the sleeping bag, and there was evidence of some blood stains within the sleeping bag. But again, the majority, and again, you have to be very careful with fabrics. I can actually attest to the fact that they can be deceiving. What appears to be on the outside could have migrated from the inside, and likewise, but I only saw photographs of the actual sleeping bag itself, but the large majority of blood was on the exterior of the sleeping bag as opposed to the inside. Again, the inside may have been a transfer. So again, with that caution when it comes to any type of fabrics, whether it be synthetics, naturals, you have to be very careful.
And did you review pictures of the defendant when he was in the ambulance and descriptions of the wounds that he had on his discovery?
Yes, sir.
Would any of those have created sufficient blood in your opinion?
Not on the outside of the bag, no, sir.
So that, in most likely event, was probably from Sister Nancy.
In contact with somehow, either one of them was on or in proximity where you get absorption. In other words, if in this case the sleeping bag would actually absorb some of that blood that may have been in or very close to it.
And then the sleeping bag was removed from that area.
Yes, sir.
So just like the state had time to present their case, so did the defense. But on the next day, where Jeremy showed a lot more emotion.
In April of 2023, even though there was still a dust of snow, Zeke went on his first camping trip in Ginger, the van. Kali's note from the refrigerator indicates, "Who knew this is how our days would look? So excited for the adventures to come. Ginger is where our love sparked, and in Ginger, our love will continue to grow." Medical records from local pharmacies indicate that Jeremy faithfully took medications, and the actual date of his determination to stop taking prescription medicine is unclear, but the last prescriptions were filled in July of 2023.
As the state previously mentioned, Jeremy struggled with substance abuse, but the defense claims that his mental health issues went further than that.
In your conclusion, what was your diagnostic impression of Jeremy Best?
The primary diagnosis that is of concern is his bipolar disorder. That was diagnosed over 20 years ago, so that's not really a question. But yeah, that's the primary concern that we have. There is also a history of substance use, which is also a concern.
Bipolar 1 disorder, most recent episode, manic with psychotic features. What does that mean?
Yeah. So let's just start with bipolar. So bi meaning two. So we've got two different sets of cycling mood, where we go between two different areas of mood. One would be mania and the other would be depression. And so a manic episode would last for a week or longer. It's not substance induced, or at least it has to be independent of that, even though substances may be involved. And so it would be like a grandiose mood, meaning a very high, elevated sense of self. It would be elevated energy, risky behavior, things of that nature. Again, not strictly related to substance use. But then there's an alternating mood of depression. And so it's not like someone would be manic and then immediately depressed, but across the course of time, you would have episodes of low mood, 2 weeks or longer, where the person has any number of symptoms. There's actually 9 different symptoms you can have to create a major depressive disorder episode. But that's the cycling mood between that mania and that depression. As far as psychosis, not all mania has psychosis, but when someone is manic and they're psychotic, then they have that additional component of delusions. So they could be delusions of grandeur, they could be paranoia. So it depends on the individual.
And that's what you diagnosed Jeremy Best with, was the manic with psychotic features.
That was his most recent episode. Yeah.
And the most recent episode, you're talking about November 30th of 2023 and December 2nd of 2023.
From the history that I could gather, yes, that's the most recent episode that I would be referring to.
Several of Kali and Jeremy's friends testified, but so did Jeremy's family, including his mom, Patricia, who, if you remember, texted him, "Don't do something you'll regret."
None of us can believe that Jeremy we know could have possibly done something like this. Knowing him as well as I do, I can only believe that his actions were due to a complete mental breakdown. I love him, and I always will, and I know he will bear a horrible burden the rest of his life. My late husband, Greg, and I loved Kali very much. We knew her well. It was actually a co-worker of mine who introduced Kali to Jeremy, and they had really an instant connection. They were a good match, and they were happy living a rural lifestyle in the West. They did most things together, working in the auto shop, snowboarding, dirt biking, boating, camping, and traveling. Kali was a lovely person who fit easily into our family. During the years we lived in Jackson, we saw her at least once a week, and we shared many holidays and camping trips with Kali and Jeremy. Later, when Greg was suffering from Lewy body dementia, they both helped take care of him when I had a major surgery in Salt Lake City. Kali was a bundle of energy and a very hard worker. She was a really good person, and her loss is unbearable. As for Zeke, I got to know him during a week in Victor in June of 2023. I held him, rocked him, fed him, and changed him. Kali and I took a lot of walks together with him in the mountains. After that, I had many FaceTime visits with him, and I will always picture him with a huge smile, crashing into the kitchen cupboards with his round walker. Circa 1970s, which Jeremy got. He got all kinds of equipment on eBay that was like the stuff he had when he was a child. Zeke's middle name was Gregory, so he carried my husband's name. After his death, I had a hard time speaking about him. For many months, I put away pictures that reminded me of him. I still protect myself by pushing thoughts of him out of my head when I can't cope, especially at bedtime. It has taken me a year and a half of doctors, counseling, and medication to get me to the point where I can now look at other babies and enjoy the grandchildren of my friends. Probably because I'm Jeremy's mother, I was not included in the memorials for Kali, Zeke, and Freya, so closure did not happen for me. Kali's family has avoided all contact with me. It feels to me like they in some way blame me for what happened. Additionally, the county prosecutor dragged me to court and falsely accused me of mishandling Jeremy's assets as his conservator, a task that I willingly took on because it was something that I felt I could do, something that would keep me very busy, and it has for the past year or so. And now, of course, I have also lost Jeremy, in the sense that he will not be with me in my old age. He will not be able to take care of me in the future as he always said he would. Instead, I live every day hoping that he's not suffering for this act, which is as inexplicable to him as it is to those who know and love him. Thank you.
Jeremy addressed the court too, but very briefly.
Just in short, I want to offer my apologies to the Randall family and to my family and my friends and Teton Valley as a whole. I have no excuse for my actions. I'm sorry.
A 16-second apology for killing your pregnant wife and 10-month-old baby boy. Really? That's all he had to say? So it should come as no surprise what type of sentence the judge handed down.
Your single act creates a chain reaction of consequences. And as the state argued, spreading outwardly like ripples in a pond, ripples spreading outward. And so it is with the consequences of your act. Anyone touched by this offense will have the dark clouds present in their lives and in their memory forever. A neighbor who heard the yelling and then the shots, that same neighbor stated that in an earlier instance, you were berating her. Each victim of this offense deserves a statement from the court. And I shrink at measuring what the court would say about each and the adequacy of my words. Kali, I would say, Mr. Best, she loved you. She expressed that even in the moments before you ended her life. She expressed that. With shots from the firearm, her death came quickly. Gunshot wounds, bleeding out, and an immeasurable loss to so many. Zeke, like the state, I believe, suffered the most. Being taken by his father in the night, being awakened, placed in a car, driven around with a dad he probably did not even recognize given your state of mind, while his death might have arrived quickly. I believe his fear would have felt to him eternal. Ken Martin's testimony persuading the court that there were shots, of which one, perhaps two, occurred while she was down in an execution type killing. The court was persuaded through the state's presentation that there was a struggle. And the unborn child, Freya, reviewing the photographs, an unborn fetus still attached to a placenta and an umbilical cord. When a tree dies, so does every leaf. When you took the mother's life, you took hers. Her life was over before it began. And from what I could see, a perfect little body whose heart stopped when her mother stopped. I know a human's life has greater value than a dog. I don't even mean to measure or equate the two. Yet, pets play a meaningful role in the lives of so many, and you took that life as well. This court understands that all too often, perpetrators of domestic violence and the infliction of harm to family pets, this is a tragedy independently. After careful consideration, I am persuaded that there are some offenses that deserve the maximum penalty allowable under the law. For this court, it is fixed life in prison, and these offenses require the maximum penalty. A fixed life sentence without parole. As such, the court sentences the defendant on count 1 of second-degree murder to a fixed life, a $50,000 fine, and a $5,000 compensatory fine. Count 2, murder in the second degree, Zeke Best, fixed life, a $50,000 fine, and a $5,000 compensatory fine. Count 3, the unborn life, murder in the first degree, fixed life, a $50,000 fine, and a $5,000 compensatory fine. These counts will run consecutive to one another.
And as you just heard, there's no chance of Jeremy Best ever getting out of prison. Online records as of this recording show that Jeremy Best is still in custody in the Bonneville County Jail. Then he'll likely be transferred to an Idaho DOC facility. Thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime. I'm Elizabeth Millner.